Hey everybody, welcome to episode 70 of Tactical Crouch. We are a competitive Overwatch podcast. I am KickedTripod, joined of course by Yiska and Volamel. Quick turnaround on these shows.
Now, please now.
What's that?
Every show now.
Please.
Every show now.
What else are we gonna do? I'm not paying for music ever again. So
Blue has music.
it's just a
We
I
have
think it's
music
just
to
this.
use. No.
Knowing Blue, I think that they would say, let's use this for a while. So this is staying for a while, and you're gonna like it. You're gonna get used to it.
Oh, I guess I'll have to.
But as I said, I'm KickedTripod, joined by Yiska and Volamel. It's been a while since we've done a show just us, which is great.
True.
This is gonna be fun. Number two, pretty quick turnaround. Just 2 days ago, we had an episode with Mineral of the Boston Uprising, discussing their hopefully not ranked 20th finish in season 3. Ton of cool stuff going on. We're here to talk about Overwatch League, and this is the power rankings number 15 to number 11 episode. If you didn't get to see our 20 to 16, go to episode 67, I believe. You'll find that all right there, and you can watch those and then come back and watch this. It's going to be a good one. Let's do housekeeping really quick, and then we'll just jump into everything. Show is 100% supported by our patrons. Go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Support the show. Get cool perks. We're going to have a game night coming up. We're $11 short of our extra bonus episode each month. So if you like Tactical Crouch and want an extra one, $11. $11. Just 5 people giving $2 and then 1 person giving $1. That's how math works.
Math.
And we
Quick
can
maths.
get there, you know.
It's almost as good as Joe's math. If you remember
My math sucked.
to the beginning of these podcasts.
That's a gem.
Yeah.
We need to spend some of that Patreon money on Fiverr to make like a best of. We just need like a best of the Crouch.
I would love it. We should just ask the people who've listened to the show, like, to just go and find clips of their favorite stuff. I bet you they do it.
Well, we'll have to like schedule something for like episode 100 because again, we're coming close. Like
70, especially if we keep doing these 3 a weekers.
Yeah,
You know,
expedites the process quite quickly.
patreon.com/tactical crouch, and big thanks to our patron producers, Battle Crab Made, Pin Lulshin, and Charlie L. Thank you for your incredible support of the show. We couldn't do it without
Thank
you. Really appreciate y'all. Follow us on Twitter at Tactical Crouch. Tweet us there as well, tactical_crouch. We record live 11 a.m. Pacific time, but we do have another bonus episode coming up this next week, just because we're in the giving spirit. I believe we're going to be having Baroy, the Panda Master, back on the show to talk about this 2020 Toronto Defiant team.
Yep.
And is it Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific?
I think that's, yes.
Sunday for sure. It's definitely going to be on Sunday. Check the Twitter if the
3
time
p.m.,
changes. But I'm
pretty
going to
sure.
say 3 p.m. Pacific is, I believe, the time that we're shooting for. So
yeah,
we're bringing it all. We're bringing it all. All right. Now that that's done, is that just like milk? Are you just drinking milk?
And that's berry juice, like
In a carton?
Yeah, they just put everything in like those weird hexa cartons or whatever.
yeah, Tetra packs they're called.
Yeah. The only reason why I've ever heard that term used out like as a like proper noun is because Yiska's used it quite often.
Mm-hmm.
He just asked me one day, he's like, "Do you guys have Tetra packs?" I'm like, "What's that?" I had to look it up. I'm like, "Oh yeah, for like juice boxes and things like that." But
Tetra is 10, so 10 pack?
I don't know if it's 10 folds. I have no idea why it's called Tetra.
Yeah, why is it called? Like, it's just a carton, right?
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's because of the angles, but even then,
Could be. I have no idea.
If anybody
Spitball.
knows,
corners.
go ahead and
Yeah.
condescendingly reply on YouTube.
Now
Okay,
I'm interested. What does your juice come in? Just like the skulls of the
Yes,
Anything that
enemies,
can
or-
kill anything that can kill ocean water life, I think, is
straws, lots of
aquatic
straws.
life. Yeah, just lots of plastic rings.
A lot of different stuff, to be completely honest. Like Capri Suns had those like weird like pouches.
Yeah, okay, we had those.
That was, I mean, to be fair, that was like for a lot of them. I think there was, what was that orange like mid 2000 or like early to mid 2000s like orange kind of drink that had like the
Tang.
monkey on it. Tang, yeah.
Tang.
I think
It's
that
what
came
the
in like a
astronauts
pouch.
drink.
Yeah,
And monkeys.
I don't remember what else.
I remember that.
We had like small little cartons for like milk
Yeah,
in
juice.
school.
Yeah, you had the little milk cartons that you could never get open because I
Yeah.
saw how you're drinking it. It looks like there's a little cap on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah, we didn't
you
have
have to
those.
like fold and
Yeah, we had
Oh.
like, you were getting fibers in your face. Like if you didn't tear it right, you were getting
you
paper
didn't
in your
tear.
it was
Yeah,
gross.
you're just. It's just like it's like drinking with a paper straw,
Yes,
but worse.
except it's been sitting there for a while.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's no bueno.
it's something. Anyways, this is getting off track really quick.
Derailed.
This is not what the people have signed up for. What the people did sign up
Maybe.
for, though, is to hear about everybody's favorite former London Spitfire player, Bedosian,
Ooh.
going over to the Seoul Dynasty. Yeehaw! That's kind of a pickup, though. It's kind of
At least in name it is. I tend to agree with a lot of what Sideshow said. And I've echoed that in the past, that I don't know if this team's going to be easily handled. I hope the coaches have their wits about them. Because there's a lot of personalities on this roster. I think people are a little bit I think people see Bedosian and they're like, wow, great flex, like solid player, has flexibility, you know, this, that, the other thing. But with profit gesture, why are London letting these players go? Why is Seoul so, granted, this is late in the offseason. Why is Bedosian being picked up now? It seems like a last ditch effort. Grab what you can. It doesn't instill a lot of faith, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All three of the Seoul Dynasty signings have come from the London Spitfire.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. So it's
That's kind of what people are calling it, the Changoon, you know.
Is
the
it
connection.
the London Spitfire retirement home over there in Seoul? Is that what that is?
Maybe, possibly. You know, you
Seems
can't beat
like
them,
it,
join them. You know, you get banged out in Apex Season 4 by GC Busan. You're like, hey, those guys are pretty good. Why don't we sign them? And then you sign them, you know, a year too late. And now we're 8th place for a 3rd season in a row.
It's true. I was just gonna say I was doing my power rankings and I'm trying to just stay on top of them. And Seoul, man, it's just like on paper I just want to put them up there, and then I can't.
Yeah,
Can't do it.
it's tough. They're gonna have to. They have to show actual placings above where they've always placed, in a consistency. I was kind of excited about them last season when they were doing like the big rotation 12-man roster stuff. I was like, okay, like if they continue with this and they kind of like all in this style of like everybody's trading in and out depending on the map, like that's pretty cool. At least that's exciting. And then that kind of went by the wayside, and yeah, then they blew up the roster and we're left with this. Like, I don't know. They've redone the calling structure, it looks like, because I'm fairly certain that Jae Hong had a very big part in that. So now that he's out, they're adding a new caller in, whoever that might be. Maybe it's Gesture, who knows? Does Gesture play? Is it worth him to, is it worth it to have him play? If he doesn't play, who's the caller at that point? Is Bedosian the caller? I don't know.
That's like
it's
the second year in a row I hear people tell me from scrims that Gesture looks like he hasn't played Overwatch in the off season.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that doesn't necessarily need to be true. Maybe he's just someone that gets a lot of value out of coaching. And when the coaches are doing something else, he obviously has no access to them or something like this.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
like there are many different reasons, but he just looks very, very unfortunate in scrims before the season most of the time. And that's an interesting one, especially because I think that his position isn't at all set as a starter.
Yeah.
I think that
was going to be my question, right? Is does he start over Marvel? Because you would assume so. I think just by name,
One
right?
would assume,
just by name, just by where you came from, your championship. You've got a ring, right? You've got a ring on your finger.
Mm-hmm.
You're part of, but Marvel. Joe, I know you've liked Marvel for a long time.
Yeah, I've as weird as it is, he came from China, didn't really impress me. He was on a roster of complete all-stars, and him and Michelle both were kind of lower on my rankings on that specific team, being Lucky Future Zenith. Good players, but just never really stood out. On the Seoul Dynasty, they've completely stood out. If I remember correctly, Marvel was he not their Sigma in playoffs? Am I misremembering that?
That's a good question. Wait,
Chat'll correct me. I want to say I could be wrong. Why do I think that it was Marvel playing Sigma? Either way, he was. Okay, good. If they could get this to work, right? If we know that Marvel has a good Sigma, we've heard that Gesture also has a good Sigma. I believe that was said before the playoffs as well. Both of those players can play Orisa. So I think if they could get this to work, they have a very interesting double main tank lineup that they could run, especially with this first meta that we're kind of going into with that still looks like it's going to be Orisa Sigma. That could be interesting. That could be really strong. I just don't see how. Well, I it's not that I can't see a reality where that works, but I think there's going to have to be a lot of effort put into that to get everybody on the same page.
Let's just go back to no hero limit and let them both play Sigma. Just double Sigma.
I don't know
how does that sound for no hero limit? How do you even? Oh man, I don't even try to balance that.
Yeah, no,
can't.
That's
you can't. I mean, overall though, they at least have some depth now in the support.
Totally
line for Seoul, so
Definitely.
that's great, right? You've got that there, but Ocean, is I don't know if I would say a leader, but he has been known to shot call. That's really solid. I don't know. I think probably a solid pickup depending on how much they paid for him. And I think that's the biggest thing with these exiting London Spitfire players is, sure, they've got, they probably are getting pretty large offers considering where they've come from in season 1 and Apex. But are they, how much are teams paying for them?
Yeah. I wonder. I think Gesture and Profit 100% buyout and probably maybe something with Glister as well. The late announcement of Bodosa makes me wonder, and again, caveat, I don't know anything of this, but it makes me wonder if they just waited for him to be a free agent and then picked him up when
it's possible. Everybody was already done. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah. I also don't know. I haven't heard anything about Bedosian having personality issues in the sense of I think we know Gesture was pretty adamant about his buyout, right? Or not his buyout, but his contract. So I don't know if that's the same for Bedosian or not at all. If he's just I just want to play on a team that competes. We'd love to be a fly on the wall there, eh?
Oh, totally. It's hard to pinpoint who are the problem children. All we know is that there were problem children, and until we can really sniff out who might be the one who poked the bear, I think everybody kind of has to hold that L.
Worth mentioning that, of course, their head coach is now the same guy that led them to the season victory. Maybe they, like Chengun, knows something about handling these guys that others couldn't. Handling maybe doesn't really have to mean that you impose your will upon them, but you just know how to balance these personalities so they have a working relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't think Seoul will like underperform at the end of the season, but I think they'll just be right. Like, this is a lateral move, and I think they've spent, if I had to guess, I think they've spent a lot of money. They're to move nowhere. They're going to be exactly where they are. They could just pop off and win the season, or they could just like bomb out before playoffs and finish 8th again.
If there's anything I would describe about the Seoul Dynasty, it's not quite living up to expectations, but not totally underperforming to the level of like, I don't know, Paris Eternal last year, I think really underperformed. Yeah. You know, Florida Mayhem probably just overall.
Yeah.
So they just haven't been there. They just been kind of like, yep, they're good enough to like not be talked about as bad, but not good enough to be talked about as good, especially considering the players you have on the roster. It just doesn't make sense. But we're gonna see.
100%. We'll get to them. We're
gonna see. Yiska, I do believe you had something that you wanted to get off your chest, because Reddit continuously just reads the headlines and doesn't watch the clip. So let's give them another clip to not actually watch.
I will even say that I think Ford clipped it, and I felt like that headline was not even that unfair. I think that summarized it, but somehow it still got into like speculation, like as if only 3 teams were the ones flying economy. When I said like it was before Crouch, I read that comment. I was just like,
sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but can we rewind a little bit about the comment? So what you had essentially said on the show was that there are some teams who I don't want to put words in your mouth. Like just re-summarize what you said for those who haven't seen the episode with Mineral.
Okay, I said, based on the comments that I had seen before Crouch, I reached out to 3 teams, just like to briefly ask, are you flying economy this season? This is like, I'm literally getting messages while Crouch is going like, yes. Later on, I ask around more. It seems like that's the standard. There are few exceptions in terms of what the players negotiated, and I personally thought that was pretty much a given that we're flying, that the players would be flying economy. And in my mind, I was making an interesting point in saying that someone had negotiated a new contract clause for themselves that allowed them to fly business class. That was, in my mind, that was the news. And me saying that 3 teams are flying economy was just something like, okay, here's like an anecdotal evidence of that being the case for all of them. And I just briefly researched this based on the comment I read that people were confused by this. I think it was pretty, like, have you guys looked at the prices for business class flights? It's ridiculous.
I mean, like, I'll come in and say I kind of, going into travel, like being pitched the idea of Overwatch League in 2016, you know, traveling all across the globe, I'm like, of course they're going to fly business. They're going to have like some sort of deal with something, with someone that they're going to be able to offset the cost of travel. And that obviously hasn't happened. I guess it's never really crossed my mind. I just kind of assumed like that was going to be a thing. Something business, you know, you get some sort of deal. I have no idea. Shows how naive I am. I think it will be a little rough on players, but there again, like we've been saying for how many months now, that travel was going to be pretty arduous. No matter which way you put it, no matter you get an extra pillow and 2 inches of more leg room or what, it's just travel. Travel sucks and it's not good for people. And it's going to be hard regardless.
The point that Mike Schwartz, the GM of Valiant, made on Twitter is actually very true. Like the value, of course. Okay, first off, yes, it would be easy on the players to fly business. The money that you need in order to upgrade could be better spent elsewhere. And the value that you could create in terms of better practice environments, maybe at the venues, better hotels at the venues, especially if you have longer stays or something like this, this is way more valuable than a flight, right? So with that in mind, I feel like, of course, it's going to be rough. Of course, also economy is not economy. It depends on the airline. It depends on there's like economy, like
flying
Spirit economy and Delta economy, very different. Let me tell you, as a person who's never flown.
Because then you like differentiate. Like I flew from Minnesota to Texas on Delta economy is very different than I flew 18 hours intercontinentally from from Texas to Guangzhou,
Shanghai,
right? Like you're just it's totally different. And I think the thing that I found most amusing was everybody's anecdotal evidence about economy and how it wears on an athlete. And I was just like, like, listen, I've flown internationally like 4 times, so I'm not saying I have the largest the biggest sample size here, and I'm not trying to say that business class isn't better than economy. I just think that people really overemphasized their domestic flights on discount airlines as that's what economy is. And it was something 100%. Else.
Yeah. Now we got a couple like moral arguments. It was just like how privileged of you to be able to argue about your the price of your tickets, and I'm just like, whoa,
multi-million-dollar league can't afford business class is my favorite one.
Yeah, somehow I don't think that's what he was trying to say. But
do they understand that if you were to fly around everyone involved in the Overwatch League in 2020 on business flights, and I even saw one comment saying first, you could buy a new Overwatch franchise, like at least in the beginning of the league.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I don't know, and it is a lot of money. But and again, this I think, and I don't know the size and the amounts, but like, a lot of companies just negotiate like flights and rates for that. So if you can buy, if they can hit a certain threshold of the number of business class flights, the number of flights overall. There is a world in which, you hit this point of diminishing returns and, it's obviously still more expensive than economy, but that guaranteed cash to the airline is worth more than the one-off seat. Right. And that's why companies negotiate that way. So, and we don't know, I don't say we don't know. I don't know what that threshold is and how that's all negotiated. I just know that that's also something that exists in the sense that if a team were to pursue business class for their whole team, it's not the same as just like one-upping, 6 or 12 individual business class flights times 28 or whatever. And like that would be poor napkin math, to say the least.
Yes.
But Fredino asks, do you know how much private jets cost? Yiska says 3 to 90 million.
Yeah. I was like, wait, couldn't the Valiant maybe like get packing to fly the private jet? And in my mind, like, they're saving on the labor, cost of labor.
That would
Googling, I'm like, I'm a dumbass.
That would take to Vic level driving the bus to the next level. you have your coach flying the plane. They could afford the plane, but not the pilot. Oh my god.
It's really just a shame that we don't have businessmen like Alakis anymore in the Overwatch League that could just like get jet companies sponsorships in 2017 with a contenders team.
Yeah.
But they didn't fly him anywhere, right? The jet company just like paid for sponsorship, right? It wasn't like they got a plane.
Supposedly more, but they said, okay, this is hilarious, by the way. Like, I know the guy that wrote the article, And it's kind of hilarious how he ate that up. Like it was like a $500,000 deal in JetSmart. That's like the Uber of jets, and it's an app, and it's like, yeah. So they got miles. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Like they also got some monetary compensations allegedly, but come on, like it definitely, like listening to what Alex says is not a good idea when trying to find out the truth. So yeah.
No, real talk. You know, somebody mentioned it in chat. You know, we were just talking about Seoul. Seoul needs to get on that Jin Air money. You know, Jin Air Glad planes. You just got to steal before London grabs it, because they've already got like the tie-in. They've got the little Glad plane flyer that they were handing out at the season 1 finals. So that's gonna be that's the future.
I think it's a travesty to call your name the Spitfire and not actually have every single player licensed to fly a plane. So many other things. Licenses. Call them the London Big Clocks or something. I don't care. The London Ferris wheels. They don't have to be Spitfire if they can't fly a plane. Jeez.
Not gonna lie, I felt kind of offended as a German by the name when it was given to them.
What is up with you in World War II, man?
I don't know.
This is true. I'm
it's
done.
kind of a big deal here. You know, like that shit happened to you, Joe.
That's true. That's very true.
You cannot make a Christmas dinner without hearing the bomb shelter memes.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually?
Yeah.
This is so awkward for me right now.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Keep in mind, we're talking about the people that were like 5 years old at the time.
Yeah, of course.
All victims. Okay. Like, so we don't get this in the wrong direction.
Why do you always take, when I let the show just run a little loose, you know, like I'm going to let the show go off the rail a little bit. People say, kick tripod, let the show go off the rail a little bit. We get to World War II.
This is where it goes.
This is why we run a tight ship here. On
you give me a little rope, and then I hung all of us with it.
Just gradually, you're like a boa constrictor. You start petting it, and next thing you know, it's just around your neck. Be like, oh, look at him. He wants to hang on my shoulders. And like, oh, I'm suffocating and dying. All right.
Look how cute he is.
You're welcome, Reddit.
Power rankings. We're going to do our 15 to 11 power rankings a little bit differently. Because I'm not going to spoil why, but we're actually going to tackle it team by team for 15 to 11. And the reason why is because that's what I decided to do. And you aren't on the show. You didn't make the graphics, so you don't get to say anything about it. But in all truthfulness, just make more sense for these rankings, and maybe we'll keep doing it if people like it this way. We're going to kind of tackle it team by team rather than space by space. That's gonna be it. If you haven't seen our 20 to 16, I posted the I'll post it again in chat. It's also episode 67, and yeah. All right, you guys ready to do power rankings? 15 to 11, rounding out the bottom 10 today. Who are the 10 worst teams in Overwatch League? Potentially. I'm going to go first and say the Washington Justice. And here's why this is the only one there, because you guys put them in your bottom 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm going to be honest with you. I wrote out my 15 to 11 and didn't have the Justice in them. And that's what caused the big kerfuffle today of me being 15 minutes late, is because I was looking at it and I was kind of going through it. I'm like, I didn't rate the Washington Justice. What the hell?
Would you have had them in their bottom 5?
I mean, no, I'm still happy with my bottom 5.
Okay.
But I just kind of kept going 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. I honestly, even to this day, I'm not confident about who makes it into the top 10. And that was really tough for me. And I think Yiska and I might have come to the same decision. We'll talk about that later. But Yeah, so we've already talked a ton about the Justice, and nobody wants to hear my take on why I think that they're slightly below or above bottom 5 team.
They've got to be
say
making
this.
moves, though.
Yeah, let me say this. I think they are making moves. And Eric and I have a piece coming out on travel tomorrow. And I got to say that their situation is actually even better than I thought it was.
Oh, yeah.
Once again, sort of contributing to the fact that they're advantaged. Of course, like you cannot say advantaged by the system when they are the ones taking the burden of 5 homestands. They did that, right? Like the organization definitely earned that. So I think Justice is one of the teams I don't feel quite as secure in having them where they are.
Yeah, that's a big that I think that is bigger than a lot of people are expecting, and that could shift them a lot higher, especially early on.
What's a lot higher?
I guess it kind of depends
like
on exactly
playoff contender
when and
a
where.
lot higher, or like a top 10?
No. I think like maybe play-ins. Like they could sneak into play-ins just for the simple fact that like they haven't had to travel, so they're going to be a little bit more fresh come the end of the season.
Yeah,
and they might be able to like squeak in like Valiant Chengdu last season. It might be that kind of a race, but as of right now, it's tough to say with how strong the roster looks. But that's definitely like a big like selling factor for this team. Like, don't underrate that. I think that's going to be a big like boon for them.
It's also, if you think about it, okay, we don't know how the PTR meta will impact the meta in general, or the PTR changes.
Do you think that changes anything real fast?
I don't know. I saw
that patch and was like completely just like next. I don't care.
We actually haven't discussed the patch, so like at least if we're gonna talk about it, let's give the high level overview.
I mean, it was kind of just a throwaway, but just real fast TLDR, like May Slow got reduced like at the start and at the end by like a couple percent. Doomfist got his uppercut recovery increased, so it's a slight nerf. Hanzo's projectile speed got increased a little bit or decreased a little bit, so it's a little bit slower. Like
more projectile,
yeah. Baptiste got a significant nerf on his lamp, the immortality field. I think the cooldown got increased. Amplification matrix ultimate got increased in how much alt charge you need to use it. Outside of that, it
Diva Booster.
Diva Booster, yes, of course.
Diva
that one's the most interesting. That
from 5-second cooldown to 3-second cooldown, I think.
Yeah,
that is actually massive, especially like with these raw. It's not new tech. It really isn't. But like you can shoot when you're like on a slope.
Yeah, and you can
slows down your fall, and effectively that actually Diva I think is now a Pharah counter. On many maps, like Lijiang comes to mind. Like, so we'll see about that. But generally speaking, on the Washington Justice,
yes,
if that was meta, they are once again lucking into the best meta this roster could play.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? And I think that's why I took not Boston, lol. I took Justice kind of out of my bottom 5, as I do think that whether I like it or not, if I had to make a bet on the meta, I have a feeling that this team is going to fall into it favorably. I don't think favorably enough to be like, like a consistent, top 6, top 8.
Sure.
But totally a team that, is going to, finish high at least one stage. And all you really need is one stage. One stage performance is going to be the difference between a bottom 5 and a play-in team. Just like last year. Obviously we don't have stages, but like, you know what I'm saying, right? Patches.
Yes. It's still hard to like remove yourself from the nice neat box of a stage and a stage, the first half or the first quarter of the season. Yeah, totally. If you can have a good quarter, like you're not going to be bottom.
You have a good run. Yeah.
Yep.
And especially with a team that is as favored as Washington as far as like homestands and stuff goes. So
totally.
Whatever. I don't want to spend too much time on Justice because we discussed them pretty at length here. And I'm
Yes.
honestly 2 spots away from you guys and where
Yeah.
we're putting them. Instead, what we're going to talk about next is who both Yiska and Joe have put at the number 15 slot, the London Spitfire. I put them in at 16. So not far off here, but I put them in my bottom 5. But here they are. Why is this team sneaking out of that bottom 5 for you?
I mean, we kind of hinted at it at the start of the show. This is a team that has had consistency issues, and I really put a lot of stock in the fact that they kind of redid the whole system. They started at the top and said, cool, who are we going to sign as a head coach? We're going to get a former, coach. He's going to have control of the roster. He signs, his assistants. He signs the roster. He has full autonomy on, in theory, he has full autonomy on what this roster looks like. And I like that structure rather than taking 2 teams, throwing them together, and then, try to coach that mess of, 2 basically champions. So I put a lot of stock in that. That's why I put them above the Justice personally. And they have some gems on here that I think people are not rating properly. Some overly so, and some underly so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yiska, what about you? Anything to add to the? London is. This is a team, right? Who is? I don't want to keep hammering a dead nail. That's not a
kicking a dead horse.
Kicking a dead horse or whatever. But this is a team who, I think not exceeded expectations in season 1. Like, they were expected to do well, but considering how poorly they did, they exceeded expectations by actually winning it all. And then obviously in season 2 was significantly worse. And now here we are, almost an entirely new. Let's pull up the London Spitfire here on the handy dandy Eric sheet here. This is a team that is, you've got
completely
Krillin.
basically.
Yeah.
Krillin
doesn't matter. Yeah, that doesn't
you
define
watch your mouth,
the team.
sir. But yes, right. It's essentially a brand new team. So is this, and I think this is one of the few teams that we've seen that has rebuilt and gone significantly down, right?
In terms of power rankings,
Yeah,
significantly down, probably. Yes. I can't think of another team. Valiant, maybe.
Oh yeah,
Valiant would be a good shout for the other.
Yeah. It's I think that team actually. I will say I was nuts when I started doing power rankings, and then I passed around and tried to inform my opinion, especially on the players that wasn't so or didn't know much about, and I had to course correct often. It's also probably because Glister for me is such a shining rookie that it's very easy to overrate him in that position. It's just, this game is not carried by DPS players in every meta, so
that's true.
We cannot really say how impactful that will be. And the rest of the roster is just such an unknown. The only thing that the upside is why I put them above the bottom teams, and I do still feel secure in, is because I think that their coaching staff has something to be said about them in terms of having a long history of building elite teams, from LW Red to the LW Blue and then for Pavani specifically, New York Excelsior. I think there's some credit that should be given there.
Yep.
They started it screaming early.
Did they? Good.
It's not looking pretty.
Sure, of course. Makes sense.
But you wouldn't expect that, right? We're going back to the core of 4. Takes 3 months to come close to peak performance. So I think this team will be something to look at. I would need to see if their later season schedule is advantageous in terms of strength of schedule. If it was, I think that team has a chance to find itself the longer it goes on. And then if the schedule is a little bit favorable to them, I think we will see them do fairly poorly in the start and then do better as the season progresses.
I think
Yeah, I'm jazzed to see these rookies. Like these aren't names that we've seen, running around in contenders all that often. So like these are like real rookies that like haven't been playing all that
well, you
often.
have Bernard, right? Who
Yeah, of course.
I think I
People know.
underrated. Yeah. I did a bunch more research on Bernard in the past
Bernard's sick.
3 weeks, and I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, maybe. But I don't know. I still feel, I look at this team and I just go like, I don't doubt that there's a ceiling there that we probably aren't accurately like finding, but
It's
I
tough
don't
to
know.
judge
Like,
though.
yeah, every time I tried to put them higher, they just keep getting kicked out by these other known entities, and I'm just,
Yep.
I am risk averse, if you will.
So I mean, that's the game. If you want like a solid power ranking, then the more questions, then the more likely then that team's going to be underperforming. You have their last the last 4 signings: Babel, Aldo, Jihyun, and Celestin. Complete just unknowns basically, unless you're like in the trenches in Korea. Like these aren't players that completely jump off the page, so they're kind of unknown quantities. So I'm interested to see exactly what they bring to the table, how they're going to use them, if at all. I mean, they brought Krillin in end of season 1, was that, am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, towards the end of season 1, if not going into season 2. Wasn't used pretty much at all in season 2. And where do we go from here with him? Like it's a roster to keep your eye on. Glister's definitely going to be somebody that people are going to be talking about, meta permitting. Not to say that he's meta adverse, but like Yiska said, there are DP, like there are meta games even within Rollock that aren't going to be super favorable to 222. So
yeah,
we'll see. Bless you.
I barely got to the
caught
cough button in time.
Starting the jet engine.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. You want to move on?
Sure.
Let's move on. Let's talk about this next team. It's the Toronto Defiant. Again, Baroy is going to be on the show this Sunday, so make sure to tune into that. And then I will at least bump him up like 3-4 spots in my power rankings after that conversation. So both Joe and I have the Defiant at 14. Yiska puts the Defiant at 13. Yiska, you put him slightly above where Joe and I are put him. Why the skip here? Why do you think you favor them slightly higher than us?
I don't quite have the pictures in mind which team would be worse that you didn't judge to be worse. But I will say, I think the Defiant are just solid. Like they I agree. I think they could be worse than this. This is just a likely placement for me.
Yep.
I think they have good pieces. I think they might only like the pickup of Beast Halo is a little bit strange to me, especially because he doesn't have a backup. And their travel schedule doesn't allow for one that well. So I'm mildly concerned about that. But other than that, yeah, I think it honestly, it's much more likely that they will finish lower than higher than 13.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like, and I've said this before. I said this basically as soon as they locked in the roster, that this is a team that's going to sell a lot of jerseys, and a lot of people are going to overvalue simply because they love the names on this roster. And from that perspective, and from a team, that's kind of built for homestands, I think that this is, a really fine roster. But I think that there's only 2 players that I actually trust to put up decent performances, and that's Surefour and Agilities. Like, you've got Beast, right, who's 19 given. I think he's the biggest question mark, right? And he's the only person, if I pull up the Magic spreadsheet again, Toronto Defiant, Beast, they don't have any depth at tank right now. And obviously we're going to ask Baroy, be like, can we expect anything else here? They have no depth there. That's a huge risk to be putting on a 19-year-old player, given he was, he's coming from Fusion University, which is a team that, has won and won and won, but he's been playing with excellent players. Alarm, who are you? Bernard. Like, these are really great, excellent players. I'm not saying that Beast was dragging them down, but when you watch that team, you weren't like, yeah, but Beast Halo, bro. Like, yeah. So you've got that there. I don't love that main tank pick. But I was actually thinking about it, like, who do I replace with Beast, right? Considering that you probably want at least a bilingual tank, but probably a Western tank. So you've got Fraggy, 29. I don't think Fraggy is coming back. Fact Fiction, 26. Numlocks at 26. Sherrick, maybe, but they just let him go. So, like, obviously, I don't think Sherrick's coming back. Yeah. Janice was somebody who was like, would it be interesting if we had Janice in here? I don't think so. They would probably sell some jerseys again. Beast is probably the right tank pick, right?
Even if he's like middle of the pack, I think it's the role that has the least talent development in it, and it's probably the thinnest role in terms of talent. So it's like, if you had like a budget breakdown, you want to be spending, I think, all of your budget in creating or signing a all-star solid main tank. Is Beast that character? We don't know. He hasn't played in a very long time. But even if, worst case scenario, he's like middle of the pack, I think that's fine for this roster. I don't think they're like aiming for the stars with it.
Joe, you tell me that he could, like, I think my mind would be blown if he was middle of the pack.
You don't think it's a possibility?
For starting tanks, me too.
Really?
If you include the non-starting tanks, I think he's middle of the pack.
Yeah, sure. No,
starting tanks, he's got to be bottom 6. He's got to be bottom 6.
Something like this.
The saving grace to my argument is that we just haven't seen him, right? If we saw him, then I'd be able to say.
Just optimism.
Yeah, we didn't see him because Chonksik played ahead of him. Like, man, that doesn't inspire confidence. It's, of course, we cannot say a lot, and we can only talk about the things that we do know. I think it's encouraging that he is one of the louder voices on the team in comms, as talked about by Logix in a clip. But yeah, my mind would be blown. I think, like, there are so many middle of the pack team tanks that I would clearly project to be over him, and I don't even think main tank is that weak this season.
You don't think so?
No. Like, it doesn't feel like there are many strong main tanks other than Bumper, like, outside the league, right?
Yeah, that's why I think it's like a thin, like, it's hard to be able to sign like a good main tank.
Okay, it's hard. So it's just thin. There are not 20 players in the world that could have elite aspirations, you're saying?
Yeah. No, like, I don't think there's like a ton of just star talent. Like, if we were
all
judging
have elite aspirations, but
of course,
sure,
of course. I just don't think they have like elite potential. Totally.
Yeah.
Like, if we were to judge like support DPS tank, like on who has like the depth of talent, I think tank's probably the lowest. Low supply would be a good way to put it. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, it's probably where I'd be putting a lot of my budget personally, is main tank, and then a star DPS.
I would still love to see depth there, and honestly, I would go like the NFL route, where you have this young quarterback who's carrying your franchise, and then you bring in some old 40-year-old geezer who's been in the league for 18 years and just, has like that veteran presence and whatever. And like, I think you could do that with a lot of different main tanks and never actually have to play them. But I'm worried about how Beast is going to grow in the role. I'm worried about his ability to, if we do get another meta that's initiated by a main tank, can he perform at that? I don't know if he can. And the lack of depth there, I think, is really concerning. And
totally. Yeah, I think I stick to my guns that I said, pre-power rankings. Like, I wanted to see teams build out like a main tank stable, like a bullpen, where you're either having depth at main tank, or you're building up somebody who's like on a 2-way in your contenders team that like has some serious, oomph to him.
Sure.
That's just either underage, this, that, the other thing. We've got Paris Academy, in the news, signing Muse, somebody who I'm very, very high on. Mag still on the table over in Runaway in Korea. Like there are some like talented main tanks that are underage that people haven't necessarily pulled the trigger on. Obviously Muse has been, but Mag's probably the big one that everybody's like, where is he going to go? Where is he going to go? Hasn't gone anywhere yet. So I think that's probably a misplay, but I agree. Like we don't know exactly what we're going to get from Beast. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, because we haven't seen him, I'm not going to like knock him. I'm not going to knock the team for signing him. Definitely leaves open a question, but I will say that like 14 and 13 were very tough, and 13 made moves to put them over, but I had my 13th at 14 at one point.
Yeah.
Fair. And honestly, I think that like 15 to or 14 to 11, I think were maybe the hardest.
I think, I think we've done it in a really good way where each 5 of these chunks can be very interchangeable. Yeah. Like I could see 15 being at 11. I can see 11 being at 15.
It's a whole tier.
It's just,
Can we talk about
it's a game inches?
Can we talk about the support line though? I mean, you've got Kareev, who
Roll Star, by the way.
Roll Star. I would say at least I think you kind of know what to expect from Kareev. I think at least, but I would say
2
that
sleep slots this season. Yeah,
right. Playing DPS.
They are very good though. Those are some excellent sleep dots.
So, but I think Kellex for me is one of like super underwhelming. I think he was underwhelming in Boston. I think he actually played really well in World Cup, which I thought was like refreshing. But
I think
I don't know. I thought he was just in like
the
Boston waiting room last season for whatever he did play. I don't know, man.
So I think people got sold a small like. I think there was problems in Boston that were pretty apparent if you just kind of pay attention to their support line. Like AimGod and Kellex never played together. Why is that? I don't know. You tell me. I think from that, I'm going to speculate and say there was some drama behind the scenes. Could be. I have no idea. I have my ways to think about teams. I said what I said about Houston last season. I think there was some problems. That's why you didn't necessarily see him perform all that well. You saw him at World Cup perform very well. I think he's going to be a solid main support. I don't think he's going to like blow anybody's pants off, but I don't think he'll be as underwhelming as people expect him to.
I don't agree. I'm not on the Kellex bandwagon at all. At all.
I don't think he's going to carry. I don't think he's like top 5 by any means, but I don't think he'll be like a detriment.
But I would say his height is 13. Like this team.
I mean, yeah, I don't think I'd
bottom third. He's a bottom third main support.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what we will observe anyway, due to many factors, is a convergence towards the middle. I think we'll not have as many terrible, like super bad, like 0 wins, 0 to 6 wins.
Hopefully.
Anymore. And I think we will not have as many clearly playoff level teams.
Just
like
kind of good, right?
I mean, for you parity-loving Americans, yeah, you socialists.
I just want to see like decent competition. Games.
How many times did we? No, not even we. You, Yiska, complain about how many bad matches there were last year.
I mean,
how many
that's
times?
due to the tournament format, but I love a good stomping.
Do you?
I mean, I love a good stomping too, but I mean, what? Like, this is probably slightly over, but 50% of the games being a complete stomping, like that was last season.
Nobody enjoys bye weeks.
This season is just a lot of close games. As long as the gameplay isn't clearly mediocre.
That's the concern.
That's the worry. I would agree with that. With how much travel we assume is going to impact things, and we've talked about this.
The worry, even in season 2, right? We discussed it multiple times about how 1/3 of the contenders teams are better than the Overwatch League teams.
Sure.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what
It's
you want him
only
to
it's
do
only
here.
getting harder to be a professional in this game. Like it's very difficult to be at the top.
It's getting
playing
harder
at
to
the
not
top.
get flamed on tactical crouch if you don't play well, I think is what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
sure.
Yiska's coming.
Yeah.
Yiska's coming for you. Can we also talk about though the DPS, because I think Surefour has proven himself at least to be able to perform and stay relevant, but obviously Logic is an incredibly emotional and very rocky player, I would say.
Totally.
I don't know how a player like that stays game ready in the zone when he's traveling now. I don't think that probably helps his case.
Nope.
To be fair,
Mangachu's two-way, so we don't know how much we expect to see him. To be fair, go ahead.
To be fair, I feel like Logic's just step from one mess into the next, and he isn't the reason why messes happen. I don't think. He also isn't the one that resolves them. So it's sort of shaken by the seas. And I think as if he ever gets into a stable team, then his performance will stabilize too.
Totally.
Waiting to see it.
Agree.
Waiting to see it. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think I agree. I don't think I agree. I think that's a great sounding sentiment, but I feel like
Sure. No, that's totally fair at this point in his career.
It's been years.
Yes.
It's been years. And I want him to, and I don't think we're getting Tracer back. So maybe we are. So, I don't know what to expect from him. I think it's a good thing. This is where they have the depth, though. Right? Especially with Mangachu as a two-way. Like, if they actually need it. Agilities, I think, is going to be fine. But I don't know, man. This kind of seems like Surefour's team.
100%.
This is what it seems like.
This is Surefour and Defiant.
Yes.
100%.
Fair call out by former coach of Logic's.
Dream in chat
saying that he disagrees that Logic's is overly emotional and that he was generally mega professional and focused and calm the entire time he coached him. Yeah, I like it. It's hard to. I'm not sure how much fluctuation Benori think it he had. Of course, he didn't play the entire time in his former teams.
Totally.
We know Mayhem wasn't a great environment at the time with all the rider stuff and whatnot. Last season, I think he had his moments, right? Like, I don't know what
thing. I think
what kind of consistency you can expect from someone on a bottom team.
Yes, I think
he is not Corey. Let's say that.
Well, he can be. That's the thing. It's consistency with Logics. Is if we
that's what he's saying. He's saying Corey was consistent even on a poorly performing team.
At least
exactly.
On DPS. Not on
Zarya. Not on Zarya.
Right.
Not on Zarya. I'm what I'm saying is that
also
like
not as impactful.
You can get the same impact with Logics, but just in waves. Corey's completely the more consistent one, but Logics can meet him on any given day. It's just kind of a dice roll, and
I just think he meets him at the wrong time, and that's what makes Logic so volatile. It's like, yes, he has these highs, but it's not when stakes are high. It's not when they need him to be the clutch. It's when they're either having a good round. They're already they maybe had a couple good series of games or whatever, and Logic's is on, and we're probably a little chicken and the egg there on. Does Logic's playing good make the team play better, or is the team playing well enable Logic's to be able to?
Yes.
The truth is probably a lot
Same
of
for
both.
Corey as well.
But the fact remains still is that he just hasn't shown the consistency in performance. And Dream may be right. I may have said over emotional, and maybe it was I'm thinking more of like slugging percentage of when the viewpoint is on him, when it's on him to make a play, we don't see it, and that's where I go. I don't get it here.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I think we haven't talked a ton about agilities, but I mean, I think
it's so hard for me to talk about him. Yeah, I don't think I think he's like a poster child of the team. I don't think he'll be like a star. Like maybe Farah seeing a good amount of play as Hanzo like wasn't all that great in season 1, if I remember correctly, but that was on like a weak patch, like, coming into a brand new patch, like maybe there was, a transitional difficulty, didn't pick it up. The team wasn't on the same page with it. I don't know. He's never really impressed me all that much. I really don't see what people see in him. This is a player who I'm like, doesn't meet expectations that everybody kind of keeps putting on him, and could be like towards the bottom half of the league.
It's sometimes very interesting. Like, I wonder how much that's the case with him. And caveat, I have no idea. I know though that certain players have an unpredictable draw towards a certain fan base. And what I mean by that is like, so for instance, Mickey brings a huge amount of fans to Dallas Fuel.
Of course. But that makes sense though. Like, you can understand like how you might become a fan of Mickey.
And then Cruz with Koreans because he, like Apex and like learning Korean and being in the Korean solo queue environment, and messing with them and having fat YouTube channels with a lot of Korean followers. That happens. With agilities, it is interestingly China.
Yeah, weirdly enough.
I was told that it has something to do with his looks, that they just consider like to be quite attractive or whatever. Very weird to me. Not like that he isn't a good looking kid.
Yeah,
but it's interesting how that fandom works that way. And maybe, of course, he's also a Canadian boy, so makes sense there. He's also, I don't think he's like a player that you expect to not see at all. Right. I think there's definitely scenarios where he will play over the season. If I were to predict, I think it's more like, I think we will see more of agilities than of Sebiolbi, for instance.
You think so?
Maybe, yeah.
I think
pure play time.
Not to bleed into NYXL talk, but I think Sabi will be, because he's so pivotal in that team's communication. I think with 222, he's probably going to see a lot more play. Now that teams are really starting to settle into this, and he can have a clear like entry into the team, I think they're going to play a lot with Sabi personally.
I don't know who else the Defiant really have to play, so I don't know.
I mean, it's just short for agilities, logics, right? Like that's the DPS line.
Sure, for is a constant, and then you rotate depending on the meta and who's performing.
Yes.
Yep.
And of course, Shofo could theoretically play both archetypes of heroes,
totally
depending on the hero. So we'll see.
100%.
Ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
Joe doesn't get to talk for this one. It's the Florida Mayhem.
Oh, yeah.
Florida Mayhem, I put them at 13. Yiska puts them at 12. So, Joe, you put them at 17, 18? I believe. I gotta remember. 18.
Yes,
you put them at 18.
Yep.
So,
sticking by it. As much as, Albert tried to sell me.
We are, we're a bit higher on Florida Man. I would say Yiska and I, in general, I think are kind of right in the spec for generally where the community is putting them, where I think Joe is probably on the lower end of that. But the big changes here, is the signing of Gangnam Jim and Yaki from Runaway.
Yeah.
Otherwise, largely the same here. Full Korean though. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't rightfully put them lower when you have players like Saya Player and Yaki and Gangnam Jim and Gargoyle. People have changed my mind on Gargoyle. I don't know. Fate. I mean, come on. Like this should be a play-in team. Joe, how is this not a play-in team?
I think you could. I think you have a stable roster, so you're not dealing with a mixed roster, which I think is a positive for this team. But I look at somebody like the Justice and say, okay, if they add people, even going off of the team they have now, you have low travel. You have
So that's Florida.
As low travel though, 5 homestands.
No, not that, but it's close. And in other metrics, it's reasonably comparable as far as I remember. We'll have to look at it again.
If that's fair, okay. Like I can understand that, but I still think 5 homestands is something to be said. I think you could compare a lot to that team to this team. You travel less. I'm not sold on Gargoyle. I'm not sold on Byram. I think there's going to be a battle at who starts at main tank. I do like Yaki. I do like Gangnam Jin. Don't get me wrong. Saya Player will have his metas, but we've heard from Albert that BQB is playing other things. Okay, but we haven't. I need to see that a little bit more before I have an accurate reading on that. I think there's a lot of questions about this team. Historically, they've done very poorly. This could be the season. Again, I have this as my team that I could just be getting completely wrong, and I'll be very happy if that's true, because I've completely shat on the Florida Mayhem for 2 seasons now. So I'd like to not, but I don't see it in this roster. I see there's a lot of holes. I see there's some gems. I think the holes are just too big.
Didn't you just say though? What team did it just say that you don't know and that worked in their favor? We were just talking about it. I can't remember who it was you were
Beast?
talking about. It was Beast, yeah.
Yeah, these are all known quantities though. Beast hasn't played in a year.
You just said I don't know.
Play.
You just said I don't know.
What do you mean I don't know? What do I not know?
You said you don't know. You said,
neither do I.
Do you know?
You don't know.
I mean, if you're gonna critique the argument, what exactly am I not knowing?
Oh wait, he knows. Oh no, he doesn't.
I don't know.
I don't.
We've seen Gargoyle misperform. We've seen Byram. He's not great. We've seen BQB, not solid. We've seen Chris, not solid. We haven't seen Beast in a year. Those are 2 completely different arguments.
I would say it's still unbelievable to me that they haven't upgraded from Chris. But intangibles are a
hell of a drug.
Silly drug, my friends.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
Again, could be wrong. I could be very wrong on this. This is the team I'm confident that I could be the wrongest on, most wrong, but I don't think so.
I think that analyst Joe has cashed in his what are they called? The glass orbs that tell you the future. I think you've cashed in all your analyst orbs on this one, man. I can't
what's actually happening is it's just like Joe's just like, get behind Chengdu. I have to shove stuff behind Chengdu. What could possibly fit here?
It's surprising. The more power rankings come out, I'm just like, I don't want to be the China guy, but because I've watched these players, like I still think people are just completely underrating them. I understand the criticisms, but it's pretty tiresome.
China.
I don't want to be that guy.
Okay. Well, too late, my friend.
It's much too late.
Yeah. To be fair, I'd probably help perpetuate that a ton.
It is what it is. Yeah. I'll take it.
All right. Well, outside of being wrong on Florida, or yeah, I don't know. I do agree, Chris. I wasn't sold on Chris with Albert. Appreciated a ton how he went to bat for him though, but
sure.
I agree on Chris. I don't think you need to worry about Byram.
No, I don't think you do either.
Right.
But
So
it's a dead roster spot at that point for me, which I'm not super happy about.
it's a little bit.
I
of depth.
need to see.
It's a little bit of depth. Whatever. You've got a guy on contract, league minimum.
If Byram ever sees playtime, I'm gonna be a little. I'm gonna be a little scared. I'm gonna be like, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think that he'll see playtime because some meta change or he starts performing better than Gangnam Jin. But for somebody who talks about the struggles and challenges of traveling, you don't expect the occasional backup player to be coming in for a homestand. I don't know. I don't think I agree with that either.
I think it's more likely that he will see playtime when Gangnam Jin inevitably joins the Mile High Club and gets someone with the flu because he's such a Chad. No, but
it's possible.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I don't think like that. There are so many dead roster.
Oh, totally, and that's
so
not that's
in
like not
entire...
even a portion of like the argument. Like that's a very small portion. There's a lot more to what I've been saying about Florida that goes into that. It's not just Byram. We know.
All right.
But I know.
Next one.
I apparently don't.
Next one.
Well, you do.
Oh man.
Do I? Who knows?
Okay.
He was better than me last year. Let's not forget that. The Lord.
It's true.
Let me get my clowning in while I still can.
Hey, go for
it. Oh no.
Florida Mayhem.
Was that 13?
Florida Mayhem. I want a Florida Mayhem above or below Chengdu Lord bet between
another one.
I want it 2.0.
You think Florida places above or below Chengdu?
I mean, Yiska thinks Florida finishes above.
Sure. I'm waiting for him to see.
I'm not taking that Lord bet. That's
okay.
Jumping on this grenade
it's
for
not going to be a Lord bet.
That's your grenade.
So I'm not going to be. It's not going to be a Lord bet. But Yiska, I'm going to make you a T-shirt with Joe's face on it.
That seems like a punishment.
Sure.
And you're going to have to wear it 2 shows a month.
Oh shit. Okay.
All right. Is that
I
a
won't
bet?
wash it either.
You won't wash it. Is that a bet? Otherwise, the other one, if you lose,
can we have the emotes?
You get a Yiska. Yeah, it'll be.
I want like the Yiska. Yeah, I'll gladly wear that. That sounds. That looks like a dope shirt. Yeah, I'll take that for sure.
Maybe we should just make them. Maybe we should just make some shirts.
Theoretically, you already like cat shirts, so why not Yiska?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Dumb shirts are my favorite.
I think maybe I'll spend some time making a couple of shirts this week just for fun, anyways. But yeah, okay. Is that a bet?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Sure.
I'll take Chengdu over Florida.
You are the bet maker. I'm not losing another one. I'm just like witness to the madness.
All right. So the bet here is that the Yiska says the Florida Mayhem will finish above the Chengdu Hunters
for a second season.
Dream already thinks you lose. So
see, now I'm feeling inclined to also say just make the same bet again.
You want to go Houston?
No, Houston and Florida, but I'm not a madman. I'm not doing the same bet twice. But I may win it this year.
I wouldn't take both of them. All right, that's the bet. All right.
I would be to caveat that I would be more scared of Houston. If it was Houston and Chengdu, I don't think I'd take that.
Interesting. We're not going to talk about Houston yet, but we're going to talk about them soon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the next team, though. The Dallas Fuel. I've got them up at 12th.
Yes.
Yiska's got them at 14th. And Joe's got them at 11th.
Oh, my God, Joe.
Yeah.
That tone in the voice is amazing already.
This one was hard. This was my gladiators of the season. Like, I had a hard time putting them anywhere. I think they could be way lower. But just on paper, the way that I've like weighted things, I think I like their upgrades at DPS, like the Koreans that they've signed. I like them a lot. I think people are sleeping a little bit on Doha. I think they have a lot. They've got an influx of individual talent on a incredibly mediocre roster. I think that should boost them. I'm willing to be chastised though.
Okay, Joe, how certain are you that Gamsu and Closer aren't washed?
That I'm not certain in the slightest, but they're at least known.
Yeah,
I've seen good performances out of the both of them. I'm willing to give that a positive mark.
I mean, to say the least,
this man doesn't believe a word he's saying.
No, I do. I truly do. It's everybody else around them though that I'm like, yeah, this is a team with AKM Unko and Harry Hook. Like, I don't know.
That was my favorite part of Platchet, by the way, on the episode of Dallas. Such was like, I think with Gamsu coming back to Note, this could be his season. He will be very good. And then Cuss is like, I think Note will suck this season. And Such was just like, yeah, that could be true too.
They have such it's rough. Like, I like Decay. I think he'll actually get to see, you will get to see why he was so, excited, hyped up going into season 2. I think that's going to be a big individual buff. I think Doha's very, very strong. There's like a crackpot world where like Harry Hook's got a sick BAP. I don't know. Like, it's everybody else around this roster that bugs me and does
it's
have
anything
me
like Harry
this.
Hook's Soldier from back in the day, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm thinking about.
He can do that kind of.
It's like pass, puff pass stuff, but it is high. Like 11 is high. I don't like putting them there, but I don't think like
that's where I was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was. I went kind of the other route. I kind of went like, I can't put Dallas below Florida or Toronto or Washington, even though they could very easily be a 13th, 14th, 15th team.
Totally.
If you look at the roster and go, at least this roster has proven themselves to be a team that finishes down there. They finished 15th, I believe, last season. I don't believe that they're worse.
That's exactly where I'm at. I don't think they've gotten worse.
I believe Doha and DK make them better. And I don't think that you just go from good to wash in one off season.
I think, honestly, if you think of Dallas Fuel, it's like in Jungian psychology, you have this archetype of the tyrannical mother.
Okay.
And it's like the mother that is overbearing and takes way too much responsibility away from the child and keeps it from growing. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like this with Dallas Fuel. You were bad this season? Oh, here, have a 2+1 because you were good at the end, though. Yeah. And then, you like some of that 200K salary? Have a little bit of that 200K salary. Here you go, buddy. And it's just like, come on, man. Like, what's with the cuddling? Like, sometimes you just gotta smash desks and hate each other for a while, which I'm not sure that doesn't happen because you have a caring management, but it's just like you gotta be hard sometimes, and I'm not sure that's the organization that necessarily communicates either in staff or in management. Mm-hmm. And it's once again haunting them this season, and of course that's an old mistake, and some of that they've actually managed to fix with Taimu going down. Actually, solid move, as we already said, like from a competitor's point of view, really respectable move. Opening up a roster slot over the season. That roster slot actually could be pretty huge if they could theoretically mobilize more resources for another player, especially if it is a high quality player. I think preferably in the flex support position, but honestly, off tank pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of positions to kind of fill out.
I think, like, I did my power rankings before I knew this was even a possibility. I thought everyone was just going to ride it out for their insane salaries. This time around, I'm not sure. If they pick up another one, I'm not sure. I just think Closer and Gamsu are bigger question marks to me now even than I realized. And I even feel I might have them a little high.
It's possible. Like they do have a very large floor. They could be a bottom 5 team, 100%. It just from what I'm seeing, like just on paper, I weight them higher. I don't like putting them that high, but I don't. They have a lot of the same like blow up potential as like Defiant. I think like this team like historically has had, you know, problems behind the scenes. Like it's pretty well documented. Just individually, it's I'm not big on them. I think 12 and 11 could be swapped. I think 11 and like 18th could be a range for them. So it's
Dream says Dallas will win 0 maps, by the way.
And all their players are the worst at
their positions. And I'm like, all right, well, all right.
Texan fighting words. Yeah, buddy.
Oh man,
very good.
This is coming from the team that's
not confident in Fuel in the slightest.
Yeah,
I want to flame Dream on the show, but I just know that he'll get angry at me. So we're not gonna do that. Just get angry and get way too harsh, and I won't be able to emotionally handle it. So yeah, Dallas Fuel. They're a team. They're a team that
they
with
the
worst team last year finished 15th.
Yep.
So they should theoretically.
That's the saving grace. They've hypothetically gotten
finish
better.
Higher. They should hypothetically finish higher. How much higher? All of us, I think, except for Joe. Joe, I think four slots is kind of high. Honestly.
4 slots is a little high, but I'm not confident in any of those teams below them.
I think even now, the more we talk through Florida, I want to switch Florida and Dallas, but I'm not going to because I ain't a bitch. So, you know, it is what it is. Dallas, best of luck for you. To you. I don't know. I don't know what they can do.
I will say one question I am going to be kind of keeping an eye on this season is if this roster doesn't work out, what happens with this coaching staff? This is what season, you know, Arrow came in at the end of season 1, season 2, season 3, no results. What are we going to do? When's the
give him a 2+1?
Yeah, right. When does the buck stop and this roster really goes through like a needed honeymoon phase?
Yeah,
it is kind of becoming a retirement home. Everybody, you know, kind of just stays if you're liked, and if you're not, I don't know, somehow you get money as well. Like I'm worried about the future, but so far the off season has given me Decay, Doha, and Kamsu, which I don't hate. So
true. No, that's definitely true. They upgrade big time.
It's could go either way here. Could go either way.
All right. You ready for the next one?
Sure.
Who do you think it is?
I'm gonna say it's Houston.
It is Houston. Yiska and I have Houston at 11. Joe puts them at 13, 2 spots below Dallas. Dream, how you feel about that one? Turn on your parental filters, I think. If you're in Twitch chat, I expect some vulgarities coming this way. So yeah, Houston Outlaws have, let's pull them up here for a second. They have made some pretty big downgrades in the assistant coaching position. Lol. Okay, I'm done. I'm not actually flaming.
That's not a joking matter. Talking about Arhania.
You don't. It's true.
That is true.
Yeah, it's true. Oh man. But they made some changes. They just recently, their most recent announcement, I believe, was Jexa. They announced they picked up Neko as well.
That's what bumped them up for me.
Blase, Boston Uprising's best player, as Dream put it, in front of Mineral's face on Sunday. They've Hydration as well, Repel. They've made some changes both in players and in staff here. And I think that they're really good ones. I think that they're easy I think they're easily in play-ins for sure.
Yeah.
Made some great changes across the board.
I think we talked like last show, or Sunday. This is like a mid-season tournament kind of team. Like, this is a team that has an early, a softer strength of schedule early and can jump out to a lead and get a mid-season seed pretty quickly. I think
we have a wild take tomorrow, and I don't want to like spoil all the content I have in there, but Houston is more likely to make it in based on systemic differences in the mid-season.
Okay.
Because of strength of schedule, travel, like certain other factors that Eric defined. Then elite teams, or a certain elite team. And we'll make the point tomorrow. I think it's actually quite a strong one.
I believe.
And if that was come to pass, oh boy, that would have some implications on what kind of a league we're playing.
Yep. It's gonna be a weird one. Mid-season in general, I think, is gonna need a review at the end of the season because
it's third season though. It's not mid-season. It's after 9 games. It's not mid-season. they have us all for a fool.
Like, they're gonna need to tweak things.
Do you remember the comment?
Can't stay like this.
Do you remember the comment that we got about the Houston Outlaws for our power rankings last year about how they were?
Which one?
We got a lot of them, but I think the one that was the most out of touch was the one about how they were in the finals for stage 1, season 1 against NYXL, right?
Yeah.
And they won. And
stage 1, season 1 was London against NYXL.
Sorry, yes. they were in the semifinals. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, they went to the playoffs, and that was the justification. So, great. The Houston Outlaws fans have some more ammo, which is much needed, I guess. I don't know. Houston Outlaws fans? I don't know. So let's talk about this though. Can we break it down?
So what excites you guys about this team?
Jexa.
Let's start there, because maybe we're just varying degrees of excitement.
Jexa is huge. I'm really excited about Harsha taking over as head coach.
100%.
He's a workhorse. He was as a content creator. He was with the Vancouver Titans. I don't doubt that the whatever needs to go on behind the scenes to set this team up for success, I don't doubt that that's going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
Did I not? Okay, yeah, I think I got my negatives right on that. So I have a huge faith in the coaching staff and the changes that they've made there. I think that they've got some really interesting kind of old guard picks that I think are really easy to meme about. I think immediately you're thinking of like Spree, Boink, maybe even Muma and Raucus, and probably less so.
I think I'm bouncing back on Raucus a little bit. Not to say that like, oh, I'm bullish on Raucus, but I think the community sentiment has completely bottomed out. And I'm like, he's not like
bottomed out. I get what you did there.
That bad. Like, he does have merit. I think he's like on the weaker end of things, but I don't think he should be like picked on as much as he is.
Sure.
Compared to the community, I think I'm like slightly more bullish on him than most.
I think the Houston Outlaws are the team that use their pickups almost the best in all that I can think of. The positions they upgraded were actually the ones they needed upgrades the most.
Sure.
They upgraded main support. They upgraded flex support. Okay, Raucus is feasible on Ana.
Mm-hmm.
Rappel will start over him on Ana as well. He's better.
I believe
Rappel is a legit.
I think it's the integration
above
period.
Average. Yes.
I think my big thing, not to cut you off, my big thing with this roster is integrating the Koreans in. If that goes very smoothly, they could be much higher on my rankings. It's the worry on how that happens. That's where I guess I'm slightly less excited.
So backline upgraded, needed upgrades badly.
Totally.
Off tank position needed upgrades badly. Got a sick off tank in. I don't know where anyone's getting that stuff from. That Neko was in the top 5 off tank last season. He was.
Yeah.
Flex CPS, someone that can consistently play and is also a shot caller on that position. Last time we had Jake, but he couldn't play everything. Or we had players that were not the leadership type of personalities, at least from what we know, and they had this champion pool. Blase and Dante just bridge a lot of the hero pool, and Blase is a shot caller. I believe, and this is, Boston is great at scouting top like players like this.
Okay.
Like, I guess I have to summon his name. DK type of players.
Okay.
Flexible DPS.
Yeah.
That can call. I think Color Hex is that player too.
Sure.
I think he has that potential as well. I think they're very good at scouting these. And they just don't have the quality anymore to elevate the rest of the team to the level of what they had in the first season. I think they're still great scouts.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think Blase is a gem to have picked up hilariously, because I'm not sure if they actually considered him to be a starter when they picked him up at the same time as Hydration.
Sure.
And Hydration,
well,
apparently is also a very good main tank.
Yeah.
Like to the point where Flame can tweet like he's playing a bunch of tank now for us. I also don't think Muma is necessarily a terrible tank. I think he's an average tank, as we already substantiated.
Had some heroes that he's been really good on, really strong.
Yeah, his Wrecking Ball looks really strong. His Winston.
Have to play those heroes in long enough to be like, oh yeah, Muma.
I mean, Joe, certainly you would, like, if you were a betting man, you would say that Muma is more likely to be a better player than Beast.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes. So,
totally.
Like, if we already established that Beast could be mid-tier, then Muma is mid-tier.
Yep.
And for me to place them where they are, that's all I need.
Yeah, I mean, where do you have Defiant?
13.
And where do you have Houston?
11.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think 2 spots is too much of a jump. I think it's a difference
Florida
on
between,
grading. That one I will disagree with. I'm concerned. I've never been a big fan of changing gears. I think that really kind of changes the whole team dynamic, especially on stage. If they have clear starters, that's one thing.
They need it.
They need to change gears. That's I've been very diametrically opposed to that. I think the Koreans are going to have a slow start. They're players that haven't played on a mixed roster from my
finished
memory.
16th, man.
Who?
The Outlaws.
Sure.
Gotta change gears.
No. I'm talking about players. Like moving players in and out of the starting roster constantly, like map by map.
God, I was saying,
I don't know if that's what's going to happen.
You didn't like them making all these big changes to the player roster, and I was like,
no. I like making big. I like making big changes. But when I hear Hydration's playing main tank, you already have a main tank. They kind of share similar hero pools. You have Dante, you have Blase, you have Hydration. Yes, it could depend on the meta, but I hope that this team isn't going to be switching pieces in and out like mid-match. I think that does hamper players.
I don't think so.
Unless you have things really set up before the time. And there again, this coaching staff is strong, so they very well could set that up in place, but I haven't seen it work really well just yet. So this could be the team that changes my mind on that whole theory.
I think you use players meta to meta, I think. Generally speaking.
Ideally, I would agree with that.
And I don't think that we've seen anything that's really been contrary to that so far, and I don't know why we would think that would start. I agree with you.
We've got multiple Tracer players. We've got multiple Brig players. On this
they
team
do, but
in
it's not
particular
like you're
in the
going to run
past.
2 different Tracer players on 2 different maps.
We've seen teams do it. We've seen Shock talk about how Ons brings more depth in a different style of Widow. I don't know. I'm not sold on that whole theory yet.
I don't know if you can pull Coach Krustyisms on it to be like, therefore it is normal.
I'm just shotgun approach. I'm just saying what I'm thinking. I'm not big on the Korean transition. I think overall they will have a good season. I'm just worried at the start. They have some overlap. I'm not big on the gear changing. I think this is a big upgrade for them. I think this sets them up for success in the long run. At the start, they have a soft strength of schedule, which is a blessing for them. I think overall they have a good season though, but a lot of shaky ground to get through first.
Go ahead.
Just really briefly jump in. Chat, we got to talk. Like, you guys know we go on these long monologues where none of us actively look at chat while we're talking. And then when after awaking from the 3 minutes of just like stream of consciousness where I immediately forgot what I already said.
Yeah.
I go into chat and just go like, whoa, wait. The entire chat completely scrolled down. They spammed during whatever I said. And then you guys say, really strong? Question mark, question mark, question mark. What? Question mark. I'm like going back, wait. What did I say? Like, can you add
Context,
any reference points?
Context.
So I have a chance to respond to it. It's amazing.
Jesus. All right. Fair enough. I'm really optimistic about the Outlaws, and
that's fair. There's a lot of reasons to be.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do well. I think that they could well finish above. If I had to guess a team in the bottom 10 that would end up actually just straight up qualifying for playoffs, this is my team.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Good to see it.
All right. Blase is super underrated is what they were saying. And then Hureg, and then there's and, now chat's just showing. All right, last one. This is very brief. And we're going to actually talk about this more next week, Joe, so I'm not going to give you a huge platform to talk about it.
Joe.
But Joe did put
where's Chengdu, Joe?
Joe put the LA Gladiators at 12, which means that the Chengdu Hunters are top 10 for him.
Yep.
Joe, no.
State your case.
For Chengdu or Gladiators? I don't know who I'm arguing for.
Gladiators. Very briefly, you're gonna have to state your case again next week, but yeah,
of course,
give them a preview of how the LA Gladiators have missed your top 10, but Yiska and I have them in our top 10.
I like the backline, right? I don't think nobody's arguing the backline. So let's start with the positives, right? I have my questions with Space. We did see him perform at World Cup on Sigma. I'll give the critique that, but that's World Cup. I want to see it on stage. I want to see it during travel. Does that change things? I have questions there. Bird ring, that's a non-factor. I until I see him perform on stage with this team, he might as well be a dead roster spot for me. Mirror, I have a rookie contenders player coming into travel. I'm slightly questionable on that. Paintbrush never struck me as like a world-class player. Bishu has health problems, so I don't think he'll play a ton of time. LH Cloudy has potential. Is he going to be starting over OG? Somebody who looked like he was going to be a starter for Dallas for the next 5 or 6 years. Why did they get rid of him? That seems a little weird. I have question marks about that. He has, but OG in general has potential, but I have weird feelings about why he just got offloaded from Dallas. That seems really strange. And Jaru, if you were chomping at the bit to get a Western flex, like I suppose, but somebody who's come and gone at this point, somebody who has playoff jitters, seemingly has gotten over them. This roster does not instill a ton of faith. I will give it to Deepe though. He has done a lot with less resources in the past, but this is not a roster I'm super confident in.
So I hate to break this, but I actually do have the Gladiators at 11, and I remember what happened now.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I put Toronto at 17 last week, and I forgot, and I ranked them again at 14. So I'm putting Florida to 14, Dallas to 13, Houston to 12, and putting Gladiators at 11.
Gladiators
so
at 11.
I'm just slotting them up a little bit. I knew it. Thank you. Finally, somebody in chat who's paying attention. My God.
With context.
Jesus.
Amazing. The context wizard.
So we're not too off, I don't think. I mean, obviously we're off of that Chengdu, but that'll come.
I mean, I have guess that puts Chengdu in my top 10.
See? That it
I'm
does.
starting in
Shit.
the MMA class for the next
I think
Tuesday.
I think
I'm telling you
I'll
that.
spoil it and I'll say Chengdu is going to be 10, but
Chengdu is 10 for me. I'll spoil that too.
Yeah.
Like they're not too much farther past this pack, but I think if you're going to, again, like not to spoil the article, but I'm valuing individual skill. Their travel's not horrendous. Their division is strong. Roster volatility doesn't seem like it's going to be all over the place, and they have like more players to come. In terms of roster size, in a weird way, I know I don't like it either. In a weird way, I think they're better than this.
No,
pack.
you love it. You love it.
No, you love it. You love it. Yes, I like seeing Leave come in. I've been hyping this player since we saw him in OWPS, right? Or I don't even know if
for
I'm
our
getting there.
pellets though.
No, I didn't. I sold you that false bill of goods, and look how that turned out.
I beat you.
That's very true. I sold you my argument and then immediately lost to it. Very fun. Cool. Good round.
Jesus.
I do like Leave. I am taking a gamble on him though. As much as I will criticize Beast Halo, you could very easily poke a hole in my argument there. I'm going for a read. This is a hard read for me. I think Leave's going to be MVP candidate caliber. I don't think he'll win, but I think he could be on that ballot.
Fair. I like that take. That's the analyst Joe that I love. Not the Mayhem 18 analyst Joe.
I don't want to put him
Jesus.
there, but I gotta see some life. That's a dead corpse for me. I want to see some movement. I'll be happy to be wrong. I don't want to poop on them, but until I see movement,
You love pooping on them.
I don't like pooping on any of these teams. I'd like to poop on other teams for once.
Like who? Which team
Just
do you
do it then.
If you had a team that you could just drop a deuce on right now, which team would you like to drop a deuce on?
Whoever's just going to be like bottom two, I think are going to get quite deuced on, and that could be Fuel. Fuel could be deuced.
Ooh.
No, I don't think so.
They could be.
Not bottom
They could
two.
be.
Not bottom
They
two.
might.
There's way
They
too
might.
many teams.
This man put them at 11 chat.
Again, it's power rankings. It's not predictive measures. There's a potential. There's a potential for them to be bottom two. I do believe that. That's probably their floor, though. They have I think that roster is very volatile, but on paper, I like that roster on paper.
All right, fair enough. We got to get out of here. Hour and 45 minutes we made this one.
That was quick. I like you. Did you like the format? I like this.
Yeah.
It seems like it's very much like nice and neat, streamlined.
It's a little more cohesive, I think.
Yeah.
It'll make for better like YouTube clips for people who just want to hear about the Dallas Fuel.
Sure.
Cool. All right, well, we'll keep doing it. Downside is that I royally mess up my rankings when I do it this way.
I mean, that's what happens.
Stuff happens.
Yeah,
you know
not a
it's
big
really
deal.
weird when I can justify the Defiant at both 13 and 17.
Yeah.
That's how you know how scuffed those like lower middle rankings are. Because you're just like,
It's not
sure.
wrong, yeah.
Which argument do I want to take? It's just right there. It's been really tough. The thing is though, is like last season we had like 2 or 3 teams that were off by like 6, 7 spaces on.
Yeah.
I think this time we're gonna have like 9 teams that were off by like 1 to 3 spaces. If that makes sense.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, so you think there's going to be more
I think we're
teams
gonna be
off,
like
but
teams up and down 1 or 2 spots versus like a couple of teams that we just drastically underjudged or overjudged. There's
Maybe.
still a lot to do that, but I think overall it'll be pretty close.
I think I would, if I was to predict, I think the season's going to be worse overall. I think we're going to have more small increments, but we're going to have also more big increments. I think this season's going to be very volatile.
Huh.
It's going to be hard to read.
The guy who cooks says, are you saying that power rankings aren't the be all end all and doesn't represent the actual standings of 2020 Owl? Unless you're Joe, apparently. The Joe usually just is a little, what are we, Joe Stradamus, right? That's how we,
I mean, you get one thing right. It's not, come on.
yeah.
I do have Dallas at 11, remember, guys. And Florida 18th, so.
And Chengdu top 10.
That's true.
But 10, we already discussed this. Never mind.
Yes.
Cheap shot, considering I have them at the same spot. So, right? Jeez. Self a werewolf over here. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here, though. It's been a fun show.
Yes.
Good
time.
show. Don't forget, Baroy is going to be coming up next Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/KickedTripod. We're going to talk about the Defiant and whether I should keep them at 17 or 13th. I think will be decided during
Maybe
that show.
8th too.
8th?
Yeah, maybe 2. Just put them in 3 times.
Yeah.
Why not?
Just for the sake
I'll
of
just
Baroy.
keep sneaking them in there and see if anybody notices.
Top 1.
As I don't rate like Washington, right? Because I forgot that they even existed until 15 minutes before the show.
Should say a lot, to be fair.
It's true. It's not wrong. Before we get out of here, big thank you to everybody who hung out. Let's do kind of some shout outs for the week. Where people can find you. Before we do, though, big thanks again to our patron producers, Battle Crab, Made, Pin, Lulshin, and Charlie L. Thank you so much for supporting the show at such an incredible level. If you like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. We're $11 away from our next Patreon goal, which is adding an additional episode each month, which Overwatch League is right around the corner. Right now, we're getting plat chat every day, which is great. It's not going to happen once the season starts, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want a little extra Overwatch fix as we go to a 2-day a week season, patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Otherwise, leave a sub right here at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. Another great way to support. You still get a lot of the perks. We invite you to the game nights. You get some cool Tactical Crouch subs, all that good stuff. So do that as well. During the show, Real Nick Cage actually subbed, and so I'm going to take time on the air and say thank you, Real Nick Cage. Don't do that for everybody, but for you, I did. All right. Yiska, shout outs for the week. Where can people find you? Any good news? Anything else going on?
Good news. We're waiting to be confirmed, but tomorrow and the day after, Eric and I are going to release some travel, like a more granular take on travel. We felt like, okay, now that we've been on ESPN, let's outdo them, and basically like look at the travel schedule just more in detail. Look at like what other aspects other than travel and border crossing and stuff like that matters. Maybe something like how often do you play the homestand host? How often do you face someone that has to face another team that weekend, but you can practice only for that guy? So stuff like this, more granular. Then the day after, we're going to have a couple of tidbits for each team, like interesting, peculiar aspects of everyone's season. And I honestly quite fell in love with the data that we had.
Nice.
Awesome. I'm just going to start calling Eric IBM Watson. It's like that. I've been watching, the Vikings. They lost in the playoffs, but they always take breaks to talk about like these obscure statistical, like AI types stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's basically Eric for us. So thanks, Eric. Appreciate you. Joe, what about you, man? Shout out to the week. Where can people find you? What do you got going on? All the good stuff.
You can find me and all my sarcasm on at Volamel on all the social media.
Failed sarcasm, apparently.
Apparently. Stay tuned for this week's alternate Overwatch history. I haven't necessarily picked a topic just yet, so if you do have any suggestions, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on YouTube. If I end up picking your topic, I will shout in the video as a small thank you, and at least acknowledging that you gave me the idea and not myself. Article wise, I think I am pulling the trigger on a discussion that I think we had last show. And Overwatch won't have a best player ever if we're to continue with the travel schedule. I think it's going to be much too difficult with all things considered with Overwatch, at least the way that the game's situated right now. So working title is Overwatch won't have a faker, but that might change to a StarCraft terminology called bonjour. That might change. Not sure. So we'll see. But yeah, Overwatch articles are coming. Videos are coming. Content flow is always pouring out. So yeah, stay tuned.
I need some Overwatch, boys. We're
close.
We're kind of we're like, do you guys feel that like the community is like really like starving for content, and we're at each other's throats, and we're like everything's just such a bigger deal than it needs to be? Like, we need some Overwatch to watch.
We're talking about flights, man. We're talking about economy versus whatever else, right? Like it's it's bad. Need my fix, man. Need it. We're close though. At least 8.3 in World of Warcraft came out today, so that's where I'm jumping on right after this, figuring that all out. So
Nice.
As for me, you can find me everywhere at KickedTripod. I've been doing a lot of stuff for Overwatch, but I actually posted a video about faking Photoshop that's also up on the YouTube channel. It's just kind of about like all the we get I think we get a lot of compliments on the show about how good our graphics look, and I feel just like an asshole even saying that, but we do, and I don't really know how to Photoshop and do that stuff. I just like use the same tricks, and so I started creating a YouTube series about the tricks that I use to make Photoshop and video stuff that at least appeal, or at least appear to look appealing, and just the same, no depth, no professional experience, just little small little details. So that's coming up. Video 1's already posted. I'll hopefully have video 2 up in the week. So so that's youtube.com/KickedTripod. Also, where you can find the show. You can find the show everywhere else. Just search for Tactical Crouch, or find us on Twitter at tactical_crouch, and of course patreon.com/Tactical Crouch. Support the show. Come play games with us. I got the new Jackbox Party Pack this last 2 weeks ago, and there's some really fun games in there. So
nice.
I can't wait to play those for the next game night. It's gonna be awesome.
Just get my pushed in and Quiplash every week, so that's fun.
There you go.
Try something different.
Something new and different. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Thank you again to everybody who hung out. We're gonna be right back after the music for a little post show.
Oh, the music.
But until then, thanks so much, guys. See you guys next time. Bye-bye. Bye.
That drop.